Again, this is a Cowboy for all seasons. We're starting on summer, which is Nicole, Helm, and I'm going to go as long as I can without my glasses, so I hope I don't get a headache. We're going to read the thank you note from the author, which I love to read those because sometimes they can throw some personal notes in there. For my grandmas who gave me summer, magic love, and examples of strength and purpose. And for the 3 best friends and writers I could have ever dreamed up to write a book with. Now it says, read the letter from Grandma June. And I love this name. It's so unique. Dear Jessamine Joy, it's a very strange thing to get old, to know that eventually the world will go on without you. To see clearly your successes and your mistakes and still not know what you could have done about either. You, like the middle name your mother allowed me to pick for you, were one of the 4 greatest joys on this earth. Summers with you underfoot were never boring, and I've missed your straightforward and energetic need to do these past few summers without you while you worked to prove yourself to your father at the greenhouse. That'll make you sad, maybe even guilty, though you'll pretend it makes you mad. You'll pretend you just love your job, not that you've been trying to ensure your father's love and pride since you were a little girl. But whether I'm here or not, or there or not, I know you, my earnestly determined JJ. I have many things to ask of you this summer. First, to watch 2 little girls whose mother left them, while their hard-working daddy tries to provide for them. Your earnest determination is just what the 2 Matthewson girls need. They could also use a woman's touch. I'm laughing, imagining the way you'll sneer over that. When they go back to school after Labor Day, you're free to go whenever you please. The second task is bigger, and it'll be harder. I hope that you'll remember your joy. I want you to let yourself feel. For yourself, for your family, and for others. Let my spirit guide you in all that you do. Let this house take care of you as it has always cared for me. And I have the utmost confidence you'll find that thing you've been searching for, that you never admit to yourself that you're searching for. And in parentheses she wrote, and don't roll your eyes at me, young lady. Love always, Grandma June. Okay, so we're starting at page 143. Her first morning waking up at Grandma's creaky farmhouse, J.J. Frost sat at the ancient, battered kitchen table, made a list on her phone. Not a grocery list or even a list of activities to do with 2 little girls who clearly desperate father thought it would be a good idea to unload on her. She focused on the house because it was here, and so was she. Buy new window screens, replace old screens, wash windows. It would be imperative to keep busy. Luckily there was plenty to do during her cousin's spring here. Kira had busied herself with Remy West, who had been helping Grandma run the cattle operation these past few years. He'd also been Kira's first love. And last love, apparently, as they are now engaged, and Kira was staying at the Jasper Creek out at the cabin on the edge of Grandma's property. The thought of Kira and her fiancé living together in that place made JJ's chest feel too tight, like the thought of Grandma not being here and her sister being next one on Grandma's granddaughters to move in. Okay, do we still continue on? Yep, all the way through 150. The sharp stab of pain that lodged right below her breast would normally pass off as heartburn, but she hadn't ate yet. It must be hunger pain then, because she accepted long ago that Lila and her mother didn't understand her or want her, which was fine. The break had been many years before. There hadn't been any point in letting betrayal ruin her life. Or rule her life. That's it. They're going on. I hate them, but they have to go on when I read. She had Dad. She had Frost's greenhouse. Most importantly, she had always had Grandma. Grandma had never cared that she didn't want to play or imagine with Lila or join her chicken tea parties. Chickens could not consent to tea parties. The burn spread lower, and J.J. left her list and old hurts and studied Grandma's kitchen. The kitchen still looked exactly like it had through all the summers and less frequent trips recently. Kira hadn't changed anything during the spring. A large window above the sink looked out over the side of the yard. The cupboards were faded green, and the appliances were old and finicky. Grandma wasn't standing at the stove with her well-used cookbook at her elbow. JJ could picture all four of them at the table during their last summer all together. Her, Kira, hotly debating the book they'd been reading together, Leela staring off through the window, and Bella looking small and separate. They'd been teenagers. Kyra and JJ were older, at 17, 16 respectively, when Bella and Lila were 13 and 14. But Grandma's that summer had felt like the last grand hurrah of childhood. JJ blinked, and stinging at her eyes, allergy surely. Let yourself feel. Let my spirit guide you in all that you do. Let this house take care of you, as it always has cared for me. JJ didn't believe in spirits or houses magically taking any care, and she never let feelings rule her. The only way a person got through the world was with their feet firmly planted on the ground. Her father had taught her that, and nothing in life had ever proved that simple fact wrong. A too warm breeze wafted through the kitchen window and over the sink, smelling like grass and clover, the perfume of her childhood summers. Grief wasn't a new companion, but it was harder to mask and control in her home of the happiest memories, and without one of the women who never made her feel like a mistake, or that she had to prove herself worthy of love. JJ didn't have time for this wallowing. There was too much to do. She marched to the basement door. When she tried to open it, it stuck. She pulled harder on the ornate metal knob, but the wood bowed precariously as if the knob might splinter off the door entirely. After another hearty tug, the door swung open. The basement was dark, and she'd been the source of a few childhood nightmares for both her and Lila, but she was an adult now, no nightmares, and no little sister to share them with. She flipped a switch, which only made a sputtering sound as if the light flashed and it went pitch black. Check wattage, buy light bulbs, check wiring to the basement light. Once she added those things to her list, she opened the flashlight app on her phone and let the beam guide her down the rickety stairs. The array of the fans she was looking for, most of the older than JJ herself, set in the same place as they always did out of season. She set up her phone to shine on the stairs, then dutifully carried them all upstairs, arranging them in the places Grandma always had. Sweaty, even with fans now circulating fresh air from the open windows, JJ hauled one to the room she always stayed in as a little girl with Lila. Moving away from that thought, JJ took a quick shower, then wrapped herself in a towel, picked up her phone, and added more items to her list. Call someone about the water heater, buy all the bleach. She set the phone down and looked at herself in the foggy mirror. When she was a little girl, she wished for her grandma's blue eyes, sharp nose, or curly hair. Anything to look in the mirror and see a piece of Grandma in her reflection. Her eyes had stayed resolutely brown, her nose a shade too close to pert, and hair wouldn't curl, a fact Mom had considered her greatest weakness. She looked like her father, though, and through. But JJ had Grandma's independence and work ethic because there were things that she couldn't control, so no use in getting all emotional over what she couldn't. Dressed for the day in her sensible shorts and plain navy t-shirt, and hoped against hope the temptations didn't soar in the afternoon, or temperatures, sorry. She would be watching the Mathewson girls from 9 to 4, with an hour-long lunch break. The Mathewson's girls. JJ had gone from a baby shower from one of them with Grandma 9 or 10 years ago. Cade's ex-wife now, had been one of those types who'd always look perfect, like a model. Still, JJ had been surprised Melissa had ditched Cade and the girls, since she always seemed happy, if aloof. Now Cade was single dad to a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old girl. Though JJ had seen Cade now and again as an adult, it had still hard to think of him as a father of an elementary school-age kid. In her mind he was still the gangly teenager, the only neighboring boy who didn't get bent out of shape when she beat him in a foot race or a contest to see who could climb the highest tree. He'd shake her hand and say, quote, "Nice work," end quote, unlike his brothers, those West boys. JJ always liked Cade, and now she was going to be watching his girls day in and day out until school started. Did he have any idea what he was getting himself into? And in thought, do you? Grandma had trusted her with the task, so JJ would give it her all. A request from Grandma was the one and only thing that she could have her doing something, so go outside her comfort zone, or going against her father. the way she had. He argued that Grandma June was gone, so why bother following the directions? While JJ had been able to cancel trips to Grandma's at her father's request when Grandma had been alive, something about her being gone made it impossible. At first, JJ had been sure the hard work she put in to take a 3-month sabbatical would appease Dad. She personally trained her assistant manager to take over all tasks and to keep Dad's calendar, and she spent extra hours making schedule notes and programming reminders. Dad hadn't spoken to her for 3 days leading up to her departure from Plainview. JJ had almost given in. She considered asking Kira or Leela to take her summer for her. Every time that she decided that, she reminded of Grandma's funeral. She stood there with Kira and Leela, and Dad keeping close so he wouldn't have to speak to Mom. It hadn't felt finished, and it hadn't felt right. Maybe losing Grandma never would, but thanks to that letter, JJ believed this summer could give her something. Grandma's death had made this whole summer necessary, watching 2 little girls and all. Besides, Grandma had put together all sorts of instructions on what to do with Ellie and Laura. JJ could handle this task, because Grandma had asked her to. She went into the kitchen and made herself some toast, brewed some tea, and then gathered up the notebook of information on the babysitting job for the summer. She settled back from the creaking wooden chair at the kitchen table and flipped through Grandma's notebook while she ate and drank. Inside, Grandma had just written notes. She'd drawn little illustrations, flowers, and fairies. Ellie loves unicorns, anything that glitters, and picking wildflowers. I keep jelly glasses of her bouquets on the windowsill, just like I did with you girls. JJ let her fingers linger over the words, you girls. Her grandmother's beautiful handwriting softened the blow of having to deal with unicorn and glitter. Laura had been in her princess fad. Even you had one of those. Don't try to deny it. She was a princess of power, Grandma, JJ muttered, but she kept reading. Since she already read it a few times, she skimmed the rest of the likes and dislikes, the fanciful games Grandma played with the girls, which most of them she played with JJ and Lila and their cousins. JJ didn't realize she'd been lost in memories of Monopoly on rainy days, with a roof leaking in the kitchen, until a knock sounded at the door. A quick glance at the clock left JJ surprised at how much time had passed and how little of her breakfast she'd eaten, and how much the kitchen smelled like rain despite the insistent sunshine outside. The smell was just imagination, she supposed. She still had one of those, no matter how she tried to ignore it. She hurried to the front door, opened it, knowing Cade Mathewson and his 2 daughters would be on the other side. That was page 144 through 150. Now it says on page 155. What am I doing on 155? Cade's note from Grandma June. So this is what Grandma June had wrote to Cade. Dearest Cade, sad to leave you in the lurch this summer, but you know I always have a plan. The girlies need stability. I'm sorry I won't be able to be around to give that to them. JJ will be in the house this summer, and I've asked her to take on my role. She can step in my shoes easily enough. Let those little darlings have the house again this summer. It'll be good for all of you. Looking out for you always. Love, Grandma June. Okay. One thing about these stories, from spring to summer, Grandma June's words are peppered in, and it's the right quote-unquote medicine for what everyone is needing in their life. Page 159. Okay, start reading. I gotta find where I marked this. So, okay. Usually it's better for me to marking this than what I'm doing, but I guess I have to hunt and peck for this one this time. Okay. Give me a minute, I'll find it. Well, I can't believe I marked something and I can't find it. Huh. Maybe I'm looking for the wrong word. Let's see if there are somewhere. The girls miss Grandma June, and they're getting adjusted to each other. I don't know why I marked that now. Page 192. We'll see if I know why I marked that. Okay. Well, I see where I marked to stop reading, but now I gotta find where I put to read. I can't judge your parents. I don't know why they made the choices they did, but you're an adult now and you can ask. Or you can accept the choices they made didn't have anything to do with you. Even if you were one of them, they have to deal with as the consequences. I thought. She cleared her throat and gazed hard at the hands clasped together at her lap. You know, I never talk about this with anyone. You and Grandma, I mean, partially because I think she might have been able to read my mind and know it already, but partly because I thought I didn't try to figure it out. It would just go away. So what changed your mind? I look at the girls and I see me and Lila. It hurts, but not the way it used to. I don't know how to explain change. I just know I couldn't go to my parents, and I did not even know those kids were who aren't my own. So if I couldn't, maybe it didn't have anything to do with me. I imagine Grandma June tried to tell you that you had a time or two. JJ laughed softly. In more ways than one, there's something that about someone you love telling you something you want to hear and actually seeing yourself in someone you. She trailed off, shifting next to him on the chair. It's okay you to say you love my kids. They're pretty lovable. She huffed out of breath. They're yours. They're anybody who loves them. They're my brothers. There's June's. They're each other's. They're yours. She nodded, and he thought maybe this was the first time she didn't try to wipe the pain expression away or to hide from him, attempting to run into the house. So he slid the arm around the shoulder and gave her a squeeze. She sat straight for a while, but then she didn't pull away or get up. In fact, after a few minutes she relaxed, even leaned into him. He didn't know how long they sat there, and he didn't particularly care. It was nice, it was grand. Eventually, responsibly called, and I should head back. Yeah. She stood with her arm failing over her shoulders with that movement, so he stood too. Well, thank you for the porch. I appreciate it. Okay, well, at least we found that one. There's a phone call between Kira and JJ on page 197. Okay. I never mark anywhere where I need to start, and I hate that. Okay, so we're gonna start where she says, "Did Grandma's letter to you? Did it give you any advice?" Of course it did. JJ says. Did you take it? Did you feel like staying here changed you? I don't know if it was a change or some kind of awakening, but yeah, I didn't at first, and then eventually I had to admit that Grandma was right. That changed me, I guess, plus having Remy back. I know you won't believe me, but I think Grandma knew that what we needed a season there, not to say goodbye so much as to find what we had lost. Kira said so unequivocally, like it should cause change or awakening, as she put it. It wasn't about goodbyes or even Grandma, but something Grandma knew they needed, that they had lost something. Let my spirit guide you in all that you do. Everything okay, JJ? Yeah, how did you, it would be so transparent to ask Kira about Remy, and Kira would hesitate to call JJ on it, but JJ needed someone to talk to. When she never needed anyone to talk to, if you kept anything to yourself, you just didn't get hurt. Wasn't she always low level hurting, though? She never realized, not fully, not until Kate and the girls had come into her life, that the peaceful feeling she always found with Grandma wasn't just a break from having to do everything for Dad. It was just that, surrounded by love, that came here. Come on, JJ, spit it out. Cade. Normal women knew how to talk about men and kissing and feelings, and that was so not JJ. Ah, Cade, Kira said, with knowing of the normal women. Well, I couldn't keep all the Matthewsons straight if I tried, but they are nice to look at. I assume you like looking? Kira, what was it so awful a myth? Yes, that she liked looking. Kira knew a lot of JJ's embarrassing stories. What was one more to add to the list? Yes, and she blew out a breath. He almost kissed me, I think. If you think, he didn't do anything, JJ. No, I'm not explaining it right. She had to get all the words out, and then maybe hang up and run away from everyone and everything. I thought he was going to, then he said it would be a bad idea and walked away, and hasn't done anything or said anything since, so I don't know why I even brought it up, because clearly you want to kiss him. JJ nearly dropped the phone. It felt like such an accusation. She wanted to deny it, but the words wouldn't come out of her mouth. You still haven't had the relationship exactly right? Kira asked very carefully. JJ made a face. Right. Anyway, I better find these sleeping bags. Jay, I have a lot to do, and this is a silly topic. Who cares? It was like weeks ago, and nothing had happened, and it's dumb. I have to go, far away from this clutching in her chest, an awful cramp in her stomach, that embarrassment, and the worst of all, fear. Okay, Kara said, sounding one tiny little piece of advice, since Grandma isn't here to knock some sense into you. You're never going to have what you want if you don't go after it. Playing it safe only keeps you safe. I guess it's a good thing I like being safe, JJ returned, feeling as even more accused, and called out, I have to go. Think about coming over for dinner sometime. She wanted to refuse or hedge, but she wasn't a child. She just had to get away from this conversation. Yeah, definitely. Bye. Okay, so that was page 197, 198, 199, 200, and 200. So we're going to page 203. What would change if she did what Kara said and went after it? Happiness, expectations, and something beyond safety of never trying for more when it came to people? Don't be stupid, JJ, she muttered aloud when shrieked when the door slammed shut, even though it wasn't heard for a breeze to sweep through the windows or close even an unlatched door. The unexpected burst of sound did scared the crap out of her. Some picture frames fell over, so only the picture of her and the cousins was up, staring back at her. Happiness? Just do it. Just ask why not. She could think of a million reasons why not, but she stood from the bed and righted the frames that fallen over, and pulled out her cell phone from her pocket. She dialed Cade's number, and certainty started to fade. But she looked at the pictures when Cade answered, and she gathered the courage from Grandma's eyes, and herself as a kid smiling. All she had to do was ask. That was it. Hadn't she survived the worst rejections? Didn't she know that she had a perfectly comfortable life waiting for her no matter what happened, with this thing she couldn't seem to stop wanting? Okay. We're going to go to 205, it says. Hey, JJ, Cade's voice was cheerful, maybe even happy to hear from her. Because he liked her well enough, they were friends. Hi, Cade. Oh, God, what the hell was she doing? And why was her voice sounding so high-pitched? Do you think you could come over? I think so, Cade replied, if sounding normal request. Got to round up someone to stay with the girls. What's up? Oh, she couldn't tell him over the phone. No, I just need some help with something, she said, wincing about how horrible that lie sounded. Okay, give me a few minutes. Yay? Yeah, I'll be here. They said their goodbyes for a while, and JJ simply stood staring at the pictures from the past that was gone. No matter what she did or didn't do, losing Grandma was always going to be a part of her life. No matter what happened next, Mom had already hurt her. Dad had taken her for granted. She didn't even speak to Lila because there was no common ground there, especially not now since Grandma was gone. Okay. It says read page 205. All of these things existed regardless of wanting them or not. She was afraid of letting anyone in and letting them see the things she felt or the fears she had, as if there was some magic recipe for taking care of everything and keeping herself that would give some kind of reward. She was creeping up on 30, and the only rewards in her entire life were Grandma in this place. Neither had ever felt like a reward, not even a cosmic payment. Grandma and this house were the heart of JJ's life. With Grandma gone, maybe it was time for JJ to become the heart of her own life. Okay. Page 249. I can't believe how fast we're making this book review, really, if you think about it. 249, where are you? I'm going right past it. Here we go. Okay, so it says start where Mac unfolded. Mac unfolded himself from the couch. Listen, baby brother, at Cade's warning growl. Mac only smiled. He walked to the door casually, and even he spoke was casual, but that was Mac's greatest strength. He always was casual. You never knew when he was going to knock you out. When a cow kicks you in the head, you don't just get to avoid cows for the rest of your life. You're right, you get brain damage. Just consider this for a second. That pain of one thing doesn't mean you avoid that thing for the rest of your life. Life's going to kick you around no matter what you avoid. Gee, you should sell these pep talks. Wisdom from Mac Matthewson. Until everyone's so depressed by your advice they jump off a mountain. Mac merely shrugged and slipped through the door, closing it behind him. Cade glared at the door. He agreed with Mac. Hurt was a part of life. That was fine for him. But he would not inflict it upon his children when the big bad world out there would do it plenty, and some ways has already had. It was the right thing, regardless of the kicks to the head. Life would go back to the way it had been before this summer. Or would it? Do they work their problems out and get back together? Were they ever together? The only way to find out what summer held for our two characters of JJ and Cade is to read Summer by Nicole Helm in this wonderful book, because the road to love wasn't easy, problems for sure, trusting each other, not only with their hearts, but their defenses they built so high, it takes time to get past, fierce. Maybe understanding, maybe with the help of others, who knows? Only you can answer that question for yourself. However, it was an outstanding summer, and I rate the summer a 10. So that takes care of the book review on that. We'll try and get to the food magazine next.